Hello, basketball people, we have news. Let's go to more news about the Golden State Warriors. I ask you to give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, as I am a Warriors fan. Zion Williamson emerged as an NBA phenomenon, but he has faced numerous injury, health, and fitness issues. A major trade is being suggested to the Warriors, where Zion Williamson would arrive to be another big star alongside Stephen Curry. Zion Williamson would have the motivation to go on and develop into a solid NBA star and help the Warriors win titles. Well into the offseason, the Warriors have yet to make any significant moves. To facilitate their transformation into a true contender, we present a trade idea that allows them to acquire Zion Williamson. Over a month has passed since the free agency window opened, and the Golden State Warriors have yet to make any noteworthy moves to improve the state of their roster. It is apparent that the Dubs need to strengthen certain elements within their rotation. Unfortunately, solving the situation involving Jonathan Kuminga has proven to be quite the obstacle at this stage. The Warriors still possess a solid core of Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler. When factoring in the potential free agency signings of Al Horford and DeAnthony Melton, the Dubs could even be competitive. However, this isn't enough to contend for a title. With their aspirations to become a championship contender in mind, we explore a potential trade idea that could address their most pressing issues, while also helping them improve their roster strength. Golden State Warriors receive Zion Williamson, 2031 second-round pick. New Orleans Pelicans receive Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody. With significant implications for both teams, we examine how this trade would affect them. For the Warriors, this deal would address their biggest pressure point this offseason, Jonathan Kuminga. While there has been an indication that Golden State would prefer to retain him, after all the drama, it may be counterproductive to have him be a part of the team. Instead, the Dubs could offload him and acquire a capable star forward in Zion Williamson from the New Orleans Pelicans. Acquiring Williamson comes with a lot of benefits. Considering that he could be partnering up with Curry at the 2026 crossover Pro-Am, there is some scope for the two to become a solid duo. The 25-year-old, when healthy, is one of the most dominant players in the NBA. Given his physical tools, athleticism, and versatile playmaking ability, the forward is capable of leveraging his skills to help contribute to victories. Last season, Williamson recorded an average of 24.6 points, 7.2 rebounds, and 5.3 assists per game. Although he only played in 30 games last season, it was abundantly clear that he was a difference maker whenever he was on the floor. On Golden State's roster, Williamson would immediately become a key rotation piece. When considering his ability to dominate in the painted area and around the basket, he would effectively draw defenders away from the perimeter. Both Curry and Butler would benefit from the spacing. Inversely, Curry's gravity and movement would create open lanes, allowing Butler and Williamson to feast in the mid-range and near the rim. His most important contribution would undoubtedly be his rebounding. While he doesn't add a lot in length to the rotation, the 25-year-old is a reliable rebounder. This would shore up the team's efforts while crashing the boards on both ends of the floor, potentially increasing the rate of second-chance points as well. Along with Williamson, the Warriors would also acquire a 2031 second-round pick. While this may not align with their demands for their young star, when considering what they are acquiring instead, the Dubs may be satisfied. Golden State wouldn't be the only team benefiting from this deal. With the acquisitions of Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga, the Pelicans also stand to gain a lot. Acquiring Kuminga would imply a potential sign-and trade. Given what the Pelicans committed to Williamson, it is safe to say that acquiring the 22-year-old forward would be viewed positively, even on a potential 3-year, $82 million deal. There has been a lot of interest in the forward this offseason, and for good reason. When considering his physical tools, athleticism, and shot creation ability, Kuminga presents a lot of potential to be a star-caliber player. The addition of Kuminga would effectively present him as a younger and fitter replacement for Zion Williamson. Although he lacks Williamson's playmaking ability, Kuminga presents more potential as a two-way threat, while also being more readily available. Last season, the Warriors forward recorded an average of 15.3 points and 4.6 rebounds per game. In a more significant role with the Pelicans, he could emerge as a valuable contributor for the team. The Pelicans would also see the arrival of Moses Moody as part of this deal. The 23-year-old is certainly one of the more underrated players on the Warriors roster. Although he didn't receive significant playing time, he showcased his abilities as a hardworking two-way player. Last season, Moody put up averages of 9.8 points and 2.6 rebounds, while shooting 43.3% from the field and 37.4% from beyond the arc. While it is unlikely for him to be a starter in New Orleans, he would be invaluable as a contributor off the bench. The arrival of Kuminga and Moody would also be significant, as it would inadvertently reunite them with former Warriors teammates, Jordan Poole and Kevin Looney. With established chemistry between these four players, the Pelicans could see a drastic improvement in overall roster strength and performance. Zion Williamson needs to stay healthy. This deal undoubtedly benefits both teams, but it is also evident that the Warriors are taking on a bigger risk here than the Pelicans. As brilliant as Zion Williamson is, his injury-prone nature is a legitimate concern. Williamson has repeatedly been criticized for his poor discipline when it comes to his health. While much of this could be exaggerated, the fact that he has only played in 129 games over the last 3 seasons cannot be overlooked. Should the forward join the Warriors, Golden State would need to ensure that he remains healthy by any means necessary. When he builds momentum during the season, the 25-year-old is capable of being an all-star caliber player. Otherwise, the Warriors may see another failed venture on their hands. Warriors have only one real reason to refuse to trade Buddy Hield. They're hoping he can plug and play. As the Golden State Warriors enter the first full year of their self-defined, 2-year championship window, all the front office's energy must be on maximizing the remainder of superstar Stephen Curry's career. With this intention in mind, they have made clear that they are looking for players who can immediately fit into the team's rotation and be reliable on both ends of the floor, revealing the reason behind their unwillingness to trade sharpshooter Buddy Hield this offseason. Although Hield is largely a streaky shooter, and has been for much of his career, the Warriors are evidently hoping that he can become a more reliable scorer off the bench for a team desperately in need of more perimeter shooting, rendering him one of the biggest X factors on the roster next season. Hield must become the plug-and-play piece that the Warriors are searching for. When Hield came back in the emotional Klay Thompson trade, fans and the organization alike had high hopes for the guard's potential impact beside Curry. Prior to his coming to the Bay, Hield was a 40% career three-point shooter on high volume, and many hoped that this trend would help Golden State elevate their offense immensely in the absence of Thompson. Yet, Hield's effectiveness waxed and waned throughout his first season with the Warriors. Although he shot 37% from beyond the arc on the season, he had multiple brutal shooting stretches that hindered his reliability within head coach Steve Kerr's rotation. Still, it should not be forgotten that Hield had some of the highest highs on Golden State's roster last season. Across Game 7 against the Houston Rockets and Game 1 against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Hield shot an astounding 14-4-19 from three-point range, propelling the Warriors to back-to-back wins in the playoffs. As NBA insider Jake Fisher reported on the latest edition of the Steinline newsletter, Golden State is decidedly seeking out players who can immediately become reliable pieces of the rotation in any potential Jonathan Kuminga sign-and trade. If Hield is able to level out some of the valleys in his game, perhaps through a slightly reduced role on the bench, he could certainly become that player for the Warriors, leveraging his skills as a sharpshooter to flip games in the team's favor during the non-Curry minutes. Therefore, the team's unwillingness to part from Hield in a Kuminga trade likely signifies their belief that he can evolve into this player within the team's system, a faith that may leave some fans highly skeptical. Jonathan Kuminga sign-and trade options limited by infuriating CBA rule. Blame the CBA for the Warriors' inactivity on the Jonathan Kuminga front. It's safe to assume that both Jonathan Kuminga and the Golden State Warriors would like to put this chapter behind them. Neither seem willing to budge on their preferred next step, but the one common thread appears to be that they don't see a long-term future together. Unfortunately, there's one issue working against Kuminga and the Warriors that can be attributed to an external source: The CBA's base year compensation rules. The BYC rules essentially state that, as it pertains to Kuminga, the outgoing salary in any potential sign-on trade would be calculated at a rate of 50%. This is based on several factors, including Kuminga receiving a projected raise of upward of 20% in annual salary. In other words, if the Warriors were to sign-on trade Kuminga with a first-year salary of $22 million, it would reflect as though they were sending $11 million out in a potential trade. That's inevitably complicated the matter of matching salaries with interested parties. Options still remain, but the most commonly theorized workaround would require Golden State to include either Buddy Hield or Moses Moody in a Kuminga sign-on trade. According to Jake Fisher of the Stein Line, the Warriors refuse to allow the CBA's base year compensation rules to force them into trading Hield or Moody. Another note on Golden State, the Warriors are not open to any sign-on trade proposal for Kuminga that, in accordance with the wonky base year compensation rules in the league's collective bargaining agreement, would force them to match any inbound salary by parting with either Buddy Hield or Moses Moody in an outgoing trade package. Golden State values both players quite highly, sources say, while maintaining high expectations for both Hield and Moody to be consistent contributors who prove reliable in providing the necessary spacing to boost the Warriors' half-court offense in the postseason. For as frustrating as the Kuminga saga has been, the Warriors are justified in being unwilling to part with multiple valuable assets exclusively to avoid financial penalties. Warriors refuse to trade Buddy Hield, Moses Moody simply to evade CBA. Hield and Moody offer invaluable sources of perimeter depth to a Golden State team with a top-heavy roster structure. Hield is one of the best shooters of his generation, boasting a career mark of 39.7% from beyond the arc, while Moody is coming off of a career year and is still just 23 years of age. It'd be entirely fair to include either Hield or Moody in a trade that the Warriors believe would discernibly improve the roster, but simply avoiding financial repercussions is a low bar to set. Perhaps it'd prove worthwhile in the end, with the returning package outweighing the value that Kuminga and either Hield or Moody would provide. It's a risky endeavor when one considers how thin the Warriors' rotation already is, however, as well as how important preserving flexibility will be. Golden State is still hoping to sign some combination of Malcolm Brogdon, Al Horford, and DeAnthony Melton, and those efforts would be restricted by the wrong trade. If the Warriors complete a deal that negatively impacts its apron status, it could lose access to the taxpayer mid-level exception. In that scenario, it would become fair to question if Horford would still be willing to sign with Golden State. A former NBA champion whose game has aged like wine, Horford is certain to have interested suitors who have access to the mid-level exception, perhaps even in its full form. Competitors could ultimately include the Denver Nuggets, if they decide not to gamble on Jonas Valanciunas, and the Miami Heat. That's merely speculative, but it's worth noting that both franchises have access to the full non-taxpayer mid-level exception. With this in mind, the Warriors' inactivity on the Kuminga front ultimately comes down to the restrictions they face due to a bizarre CBA rule,